So here we've opened our tips and tricks file, and we're going to make a copy of our original no edit worksheet. And I'm simply going to name it DV for data validation. So here I'm going to activate cell A30 and I'm going to type in the word list. In cell B30, that's where I'm going to choose our data validation that's going to allow us to get a list of our company names in column A. So here I'm going to press Alt A V. You'll see that brings us to our data tab, and then V will allow us to work with data validation, and then another V for data validation again. And here we see our different options for data validation, our settings, our input message, and our error alert. And the first thing I'm going to do here is simply allow a list. So I'm going to go to this drop-down menu and allow list. The next thing I have to do is select a source, and I'm going to choose the selection that is cells A2 through A27, and that's going to be our range for our company names. So I'm going to use this option here, this key here, in order to select those cells. And here I have cells A2 through A27, that range selected, and then I'll press OK. And if we scroll down, you'll see that we have an option to select a choice of our company names from that list. I can also use a shortcut here by holding down Alt and pressing the down arrow in order to get to that list. And all of our navigation keys work there as well. Any arrows, the home, the end key, page up and page down will allow us to navigate this particular list. When I choose an option, I can just hit enter. Now we're going to change the type of data validation that we have. In cell A31, I'm going to type the word warning. I'm going to use data validation to allow us to type in a number between 1 and 5. So here we use our shortcuts again, Alt A V. And if I press Tab, that will allow me to go to that drop-down menu for the allow option, and I'm going to allow a whole number. And I want it to be between 1 and 5. On the input message, I can change that as well. And I'm going to put an input message here that says choose between 1 and 5. That'll be our title, and then for message, I'm just going to say choose 1. And then I'm going to select our error alert that's going to be a little bit different. And I'm going to change it from a stop. A stop is not going to allow us to override it. An error alert of warning will still allow us to override that value. So I'm going to press OK here. And here you'll see our input message, and it says choose between 1 and 5 and then choose 1. So here I'm going to try to type in a 7 and see what happens. You'll notice here that the error message says it doesn't match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell, but you are able to continue if you want to. So I still could override that value. If I choose one that's allowed for the cell between 1 and 5, there's no issue. And if I were to edit the data validation here, I could as well. So before you see the standard warning that pops up from Microsoft Excel, but we can actually change that as well. I'll go back up to the data validation screen, and I'm going to show a title and an error message here. Here you'll notice that I've typed out the words for 1 and 5 just so we can see that it's going to be a different option for title and error message. Then I'm going to select OK. And if I were to go in and edit this cell and type in 7 and then hit enter, you'll notice that we changed our title and we also changed the message that pops up. I'm going to select no here, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to type a value that does work for that. Next thing I'm going to do is edit this from a warning to a stop option. So again, I'm going to select our data tab by pressing Alt and then going up to the data tab, V for data validation, and then data validation. And for our error alert, I'm going to choose a different style. I'm going to make that a stop rather than a warning. And before, I was allowed to keep that value if it was outside of the range. But if I try to type in a 7 here now, you notice we get a screen that looks a little bit different, and I don't have the option to continue. I must either retry or cancel that value. And you'll notice that it won't accept a value until I were to choose one between 1 and 5. And once I do choose a value that meets those restrictions, there's no issue. So our data validation will allow us to limit the options that a user of this cell might want to type in. So for example, if we're working through a spreadsheet and we know that our interest rate has to be in a certain range, we could limit the user to type in a value that's within that range. If we're going to create a function that depends on the exact spelling of a value, maybe we give the user the option to pull from that list rather than having them type it in. So for example, if we needed to type a list of states, rather than trying to guess whether or not they're going to spell out the state or abbreviate the state or spell it incorrectly, we have the option of just having them select from that drop-down menu. So our data validation can be helpful, especially when we want to make sure that our data inputs are correct.